Okay, so I promised you I'd be back. So here we go. Multiplying fractions. Now, multiplying fractions is actually pretty easy. There's only 2 steps. Step 1, simplify first. Step 2, multiply the leftovers from left to right. And that's it. Those are the only 2 steps you really got to be concerned with. So what I'm going to do here is we're just going to blast through some problems, and then we're going to go over dividing fractions, okay? And what you're going to notice about dividing fractions is it's actually the same exact thing as multiplying. It's just one little step you got to do first, okay? So first, let's go ahead and let's start multiplying some fractions together, okay? So the first 2 fractions we're going to multiply, and we're going to keep it simple initially. Sorry, I forgot to write the directions. I'm always bad at that. So multiply the following fractions. All right, so here's our first one. 2/5 times 1/3. Well, remember, you want to simplify first. And another word for simplify, hopefully you're looking at your screen right now at step 1, is prime factorization. That's what you need to do first. So, let's see. Let's look at our first fraction. 2/5. Well, the 2 is prime, the 5 is prime, so I rewrite it. Now, the second fraction is 1/3. 1 is not prime, and it's not composite. 1 is 1. So just rewrite the 1, and 3 is prime. So now, since we know that there's nothing that we can do to simplify, I'm going to write one big numerator, and watch what I do here. I'm going to put them in order. 1 times 2. And then I'm going to write one big denominator, 3 times 5. And that's going to give me 2/15. And I know this is completely reduced. And the reason why I know that is because of right here in this previous step. Since I couldn't scratch anything out, there's nothing I can simplify. So I know my answer doesn't need simplified as well. So 2/5 times 1/3 is 2/15. It is literally that easy. Okay? So now let's try another problem here. Let's try 2/3 times 3/8. Okay? So remember, first step is to simplify. So 2 is prime, 3 is prime. Now, what I'm talking about is the very first fraction. So 2 is prime, 3 is prime. So I'm just going to rewrite it. Now, for the second fraction, the 3/8, let's go ahead and let's reduce that. So the 3 is prime, that stays the same. However, the 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. All right, now if you're wondering how I got that, underneath 8, 2 numbers are multiplied to get 8 is 2 and 4. And then 4 is composite, so I can break that down into 2 times 2. Now, just like the previous problem, I'm going to write one big numerator, one big denominator in order. So my numerator is going to be 2 times 3. My denominator is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Here is where I'm going to get out my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight numbers that I see that are the same on the top and bottom. There's 2/2, and here's 3/3. So I'm going to replace them with a number 1. So 1/1, scratch them out. 1/1, scratch them out. So I'm going to write what's left over. In my numerator, 1 times 1. In my denominator, 1 times 2 times 2 times 1. So now this is where we multiply the leftovers. 1 times 1 is 1. And then 1 times 2 times 2 times 1 is only going to be 4. So 2/3 times 3/8 equals 1/4. And it's completely simplified. Remember, there's no more guessing. If you simplify first using prime factorization, you always know that your final answer is going to be completely reduced. All right? Now let's get into the fun stuff here. Let's try this. Negative 14 over 15 times 9 over 20. So, remember, step 1, simplify. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime factorize any composite number I see. First fraction. So let's focus on the first fraction. That is negative 14 over 15. So what I'm going to do is put a negative sign and then my fraction bar. Put a big set of parentheses. 14 is 2 times 7. And 15 is 3 times 5. Okay? Now, second fraction, big set of parentheses. The 9 is really 3 times 3. And that 20, I'm going to have to write that one down. I can't do that one in my head. So 20 is going to be 4 times 5. 5 is prime. And then 4 we can break down into 2 times 2. So that 20 turns out to be 2 times 2 times 5. Now, write one big numerator, one big denominator. So I have a negative out front and one big numerator. Now, before I even move any further, I want to make sure that we understand about this negative. Remember, at the very start of this problem, we have negative 14 over 15 times 9 over 20. Here's the thing, okay? You have a negative number times a positive number. So your answer is going to be negative. That's why the negative comes along for the ride. So now let's write one big numerator in order. 2 times 3 times 3 times 7. And then one big denominator, remember, in order. 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 5. Okay? Get out the highlighter. Numbers that are the same on the top and bottom. 2 over 2. 3 over 3. And that looks like about it. So let's cross them out and replace them with ones. So we got a 1 and a 1. Cross them out, put a 1 and a 1. So I'm going to clean this up. Put my negative out front. 1 times 1 times 3 times 7. And then my denominator is going to be 1 times 2 times 1 times 5 times 5. So my answer, all I have to do is multiply the leftovers. I know the fraction is going to be negative. So 1 times 1 times 3 times 7 is 21. And then downstairs in the denominator, 1 times 2 is 2 times 1 is 2. And then you have 5 times 5 times 2. So it's really just 2 times 25, which is going to be 50. And I know this is completely reduced, and it's because I did it in the step above. Okay? Like I said, there's no more guessing with this. There's no more, I don't know if I'm done simplifying. You will know when you are done because you won't be able to cross anything out anymore. Okay? So let's go. Let's try a couple more here. Let's try this one here. Let's try 4 times 5 over 11. Now, this one may look a little confusing, but I'm going to teach you something right now. You can make any number, any whole number, you can turn it into a fraction just by putting it over 1. So now we have a fraction times a fraction. So let's go ahead, let's simplify first. So I look at the very first fraction, which is 4 over 1. So that 4 is just 2 times 2. We've seen that a bunch of times already. The 1 is just 1. It's like that exception to the rule. Now multiplied by 5 is prime and 11 is prime. So I'm going to write one big numerator in order, 2 times 2 times 5. And then one big denominator in order, 1 times 11. So I look for numbers that are the same on the top and bottom. And guess what? There are none. So what I'm going to have to do here is just multiply the leftovers. 2 times 2 is 4 times 5 is 20. And 1 times 11 is 11. And I know that's completely reduced because I couldn't reduce anything in the step prior. Okay? So, excuse me, I hope this is helping. All right? But now we're going to go ahead and look at some division problems. All right? So dividing fractions. So dividing fractions is really just 3 steps. The first step, okay, is you're going to have to rewrite the problem. Using the technique below. All right. So here's our technique. A. It looks like a 9. Let me rewrite it. A. Rewrite the first fraction. Part B. Change division into multiplication. And then our third and final step. Okay, now this one, you probably heard before, but I'm going to say it anyways, okay? Our third and final step is going to write the sorry, that's my dog. Hold on, I'm going to pause it. I am so sorry about that. We're just going to do part C over again. So part C is write the second write the reciprocal of the second fraction. Okay? So after you do that, your next step 2 would be simplify. And in parentheses, I'm going to put prime factorization again. And then step 3 is going to be multiply the leftovers from left to right. Okay? So it's nice. It's a video. You can pause it, write these down. I'm just going to go right into a problem right here. And you're going to see just how easy this really is. Okay? So, excuse me, here's our first example. We're going to do, let's say, 4/5 divided by 8 over 15. Okay? 4/5 divided by 8 over 15. So, hopefully you got your steps in front of you. Step 1, we need to rewrite this problem. And we're going to follow A, B, and C. So part A, rewrite the first fraction. Part B, the division symbol changes to multiplication. Now, part C is this, write the reciprocal. And all that means is to flip it. All that means is to flip. So instead of writing 8 over 15, I'm going to write 15 over 8. And if you look, what we've done is we've taken a division problem and we've converted it back into a multiplication problem, which we just looked at a bunch of examples of that. So step 2, which is the big step now, let's simplify by prime factorization. 4 is 2 times 2. 5 is prime. Times, now 15 is going to be 3 times 5. And 8, we've done that a bunch already, is 2 times 2 times 2. I'm going to write one big fraction in order, so one numerator, 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, and then one denominator, 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. We're going to get out our highlighter, and we're going to simplify. Here's 2 over 2, 2 over 2, and 5 over 5. So all of those numbers we're going to scratch out and replace with the number 1. So if I just rewrite everything the way it looks, 1 times 1 times 1 times 3, and then 1 times 1 times 2 times 1. If I multiply the leftovers from left to right, I'm going to get a 3 in the numerator and a 2 in my denominator. And that is how you divide fractions. You literally rewrite the problem so that it's a multiplication problem. It's just the key, and I'm going to highlight it in blue for us, is this thing right here, which means to reciprocate. So finding the reciprocal just means flip the fraction upside down. That's it. So let's do a couple of these examples, and then we can call it a day for this section. So another example, let's do this one. Let's do, let me try to pick a good one here. How about 5 over 18 divided by a negative 15 over 24. All right, step 1, let's rewrite the problem. So part A, first fraction stays the same, you rewrite it. Part B, division changes the multiplication. Part C, write the reciprocal of the second fraction. So it's going to be a negative 24 over 15. Notice the negative has nothing to do with the reciprocal. All you're doing is flipping it. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and simplify. So 5 is prime. 18, I can break that down real quick. That's going to be 3 and 6. And then 2 and 3. So 2 times 3 times 3. Now for the second fraction, I put a negative in front because it's still there. 24, we need to break that down. So that's going to be 8 and 3. 3 is prime. And then we've seen 8 so many times. 8 is just going to be 2 times 2 times 2. So let's write in order. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And then the 15 is just 3 times 5. Okay? Now, I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to write one big numerator and one big denominator. I'm going to put the negative out front. And the reason for that is, as you can see here, we have 5 over 18, which is positive, times 24 over 15, which is negative, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So the negative stays out front, and I'm going to write just a big numerator. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. I know it's a lot, but do this in chunks. Don't rush. Now your denominator, 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 5. Now, let's use that property of 1. Let's start highlighting things that we see that are the same in the top and bottom. So it looks like I have 2 over 2, 3 over 3, and 5 over 5. And I want you to notice something here because I did this. I didn't highlight the first 3. I did the second 3. It doesn't matter. Just highlight one of them. That's it. Okay? So now that we highlighted them, let's cross them out and rewrite them with a 1. All right, there we go. Put the negative out front, and I'm just going to clean this up. 1 times 2 times 2 times 1 times 1. And then down below, it's 1 times 3 times 1 times 3 times 1, which equals, now we're going to multiply the leftovers. In the numerator, I get 4. In my denominator, I get 9. And I know that's completely reduced because I did it in that step back there. Okay? So I'm going to do one last problem here because I think it's going to be extremely beneficial for us. And that's this one right here. Actually, no, I want to do this one. Let's do 3. No, I don't want to do the whole number first. I want to do a whole number second. 1 over 6 times, or I'm sorry, divided by 2. All right, sorry about that. Sometimes my brain, I'm like a computer. It's like sometimes you think in a brain, and the computer stops for a second, then it kicks back in. That's exactly what just happened with me. So we're still dividing fractions, and notice that 2, I can make that 2 over 1. Okay, and that is huge. You need to write that out because now you can see, okay, I'm dividing fractions, so I'm gonna follow my steps on rewriting the problem. Part A, rewrite the first fraction. Part B, division changes the multiplication. Part C, write the reciprocal of 2 over 1, which is 1 over 2. Now what's nice about this, if you notice in the numerator, you have all number 1s. So you know, hopefully, nothing is going to simplify here. So we're just going to multiply left to right. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 2 is 12. And that's completely reduced because you couldn't do anything before. All right, and that's it for this section. So the next section deals with multiplying and dividing mixed numbers. And that's going to be a very short video. It's just, you need to just convert things. That's it. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.